Next question I'm going to pull up is I want you to look at on page 540. Okay, on page 540 of the book, I talked to you about some string information about how to process that character when you actually use the character discard on that with it. So look at the character discard, how it's being used in the middle of that page with it. You're going to get something very, very similar. I was doing a cin with this thing, a cin.get, and you know, for discard, read that. I'm going to do the same similar example in that example as well. Okay, so page 540, you look at all the, read that first 2/3 down to the first 4/5 of that page. Consider the following statements all the way down to c.getLine text line, comma 100. So make sure you understand the process. I'm going to give you something very similar to that. So make sure you understand, and then I'm going to give you a sample with string, and it's going to do something to that. So I want to modify that particular example that you see on there. It's going to be determined as a multiple choice with it. The next question I want to ask you is, there's 3 questions. If you look at page 544, and we get into two-dimensional array. Okay, 544, two-dimensional array. 3 questions. So the first question that I would like for you to understand on that page is, make sure you know how to declare the number of components for a two-dimensional array, right? So we're talking about two dimensions, the array with it. Know the syntax to declare two-dimensional arrays with this thing. Okay, so when you have a two-dimensional array, for example, we're looking at double, and you have something like sales in this case that's using with it, and you have to use the 2 square brackets with this thing. Okay, so when you have something like this first set of bracket is your row. All right, so I'm looking at 10 rows, let's say in this case, in here, and the second one I'm putting in, as in this example, is 5. Now you realize it's very, it's if this is a table that you're using, so this is your row, all your elements, your range is going to start with 0. So I'm just going to use an Excel spreadsheet for us to actually have something to lean on to have a part of discussion on this thing. Is that if you look at, I'm going to pull up an Excel document here, and bear with me for a moment while this thing's loading. But in this Excel document, that as we talk, and I'm going to just have a blank Excel document. Imagine this is what, 10 rows, whatever it is, and this thing has, how many columns did it ask? I give you 5. So I have like 5 columns here. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I have 10 rows, right? So here's whatever that I have. Let me just highlight that section. This right here would be row 0, column 0. This right here would be row 0, column 1. This row here would be column, you see where I'm going at? Row 0, column 2, so on. This one here, so this particular address that you're looking at is row 0, column 0. And it all goes all the way down to, if you have an array of 10 in this case, right? So where does this thing end? So it ends on where? It ends on 9, right? So actually what? This is going to be 0, 1, 2, 3, all the way, and this one's going to be 9 here. And if you come across with columns, if you have 4, array size of 4, it starts with 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so 0, 0 is this address right here. I'm just using this as a grid so we have something to lean to talk to on this thing. So it's important that you understand that, because in data structure, by definition, arrays are all initialized at 0 with this thing. And you fill this thing with the rows that comes across with this whole thing. So I want you to understand, if you could for me, understand that the rows and columns, how you access an array. When you access an array, you have to go in individually and access that array with it. So you can't do the whole array do this by this. It doesn't work like that. So make sure you understand how you access an array, how do you process an array, and how do you read out from it? How do you process and read that out to the screen with it? So that's a type of work that you can actually see. It comes across with this. And how I'm going to ask you is I have a question about the number of components in this thing. So I'm going to give you a grid, for example. For example, in that example that I gave you, or if you look at that example that I just had you look at on your on page 544, it says double sales 10 rows, 5 is column. All right. I could ask you how many elements are there. All right. So if you really took 5 times, it's a 10 by 5, so there should be 50 components. Agree? So make sure if you know whatever numbers, you just multiply it out, and that will give you the number of components. That's what that is. Okay. So know the number of rows, know the number of components, etc., etc. That's how it's going to work with it. All right, I got 3 questions just off of that, so you understand how alphas and how rows and columns work with that. Okay, hold on.